Good morning, guys. Happy to be here, sir. Got a little lucky with the iron double downgrade. There was a few doubters yesterday. Thank you. You know, there are days when you feel like a slight genius, right? You short iron yesterday, and then this gets the downgrade and fades, and then you long TSM, and then this gets the gap up. Gotta love when that happens, man. Market makes you feel like an absolute genius. You added to CRDO, TSM, Marvell. So I don't really love Marvell. I mean, of course it could work, but I didn't think that yesterday was maybe the setup to add. CRDO I like. I like the way CRDO looks right now. So was hoping it wouldn't gap up, and maybe this was one I could buy. Do I use progressive exposure? If so, how? I've talked about this in a million different ways. Some, if you've never watched any of my interviews with Trader Lion, Words of Wisdom, you know, I talk about this quite a bit. But I'll just go over it quickly. The way I look at it is, imagine if you had no exposure to the market at all, and then you saw a really clean setup in a leading group with good earnings and sales. Well, I would take that setup, and then if I were gaining traction, then I would go ahead and take another, and then another, and then another. And that's how I'm getting my money to work. I never just go from 0% invested to 100. The market has to give me more setups, has to give me follow through on the prior things that I own, because I am focused on good stocks with clean technical setups in a good market, right? So as long as I'm in a good market, naturally things go higher in a good market, especially stocks in leading groups, especially the leading stocks in those leading groups. So if my focus is there in a good market, well, naturally it wants to float higher. Okay, fine. But still, you're wrong a ton as a swing trader. So you have to use proper position size. You have to have a level where you exit if you're wrong. And those things we know. And then, you know, I buy something, it starts to push higher. I'm in a good market. The stock's got good fundamentals. And then I put on proper size, and then it begins to work. And then the next day I come in, I take another one. And then now those two that now I own begin to work, and I take another and another and another, etc. And I keep operating behind me gaining traction. But if I'm not gaining traction, then I size things down, right? Like if I lose a few trades in a row, 3, 4, 5, 6 trades in a row, you know, very small losses, then I size things down until I begin to gain traction. It really depends where you own it from, right? I mean, if you have $190 average, then, you know, they might just kind of hold pat until earnings. But I'm not necessarily sure. I'm not necessarily sure where you own it from. So, you know, it's struggling a little bit with resistance, but it's, you know, it's basically at all-time highs. Thoughts on shorting SNDK? I don't know. It's going to have to show a little bit more weakness. I don't own NVIDIA. I wanted to buy NVIDIA. I posted what names I owned yesterday on X, but I thought buying NVIDIA through 183.40 was decent, but I never pulled the trigger right here. Well, a little bit of hindsight, wish I would have. Nothing. I have no. I mean, there are of course some on my focus, but we've got the FOMC meeting this afternoon, so there's nothing to do until then. Hang out, let my names work. You were entering on TSM yet? Yeah, I was entering TSM as soon as we were breaking yesterday's highs, or should I say prior day highs. So I was entering TSM right here. And how should one be entering TSM if it's only available the first hour of the day? I break a prior day high, but if you didn't get that, then there's nothing to do in here. Like in here, there's nothing to do. So this is, you don't have to be glued to your screen. Set an alert. Set an alert and proper position sizing. You can get the alert on your phone while you're at the grocery store. Hop on your broker and take your shares, right? You could just set a buy limit order and get in and then set your alert early. So like what you could always do is, that this is a very tight chart. Okay. So you see this from the day before and you're like, oh man, if we take out prior day high, I'm a buyer. Okay. We'll set your alert at 350 cents, but set your alert at 299. Right. And so you could literally be out of your house and then you all of a sudden are 299.40 or something, right? $1 before. Then all of a sudden you get your alert in here and you're looking at the market and then you're looking at the stock, $1 before it's going to break out. And you don't have to be at your screen at all. You just got to know what you want to own and where you'd want to own it, and then gauge the market for how it's acting. Again, you just don't have a system in place so you can get yourself off the screen. MDB could work. Yeah, it could. A lot of stocks down yesterday. Yeah, I'm not much for adding many more breakouts here. They could work, but the best stocks that are working for me overnight are obviously, one is semiconductor related, and the other is iron on the short side. So, and I love the double downgrade. It got like a $45 price target, so maybe down to the 50-day would be great. AMSE keeps chopping you up. Yeah, it's got to hold the 50-day. It's got to hold the 50-day. Yeah, that's it. That's all I know. I mean, it looks super choppy to me, and it's just got to hold the 50-day. And it should move with like your utilities. I think they do like connectivity, I believe. You felt like AVAV was ready? No. Not really. There's nothing clean here. You have to take into account the move that this thing has made, and then these things need longer bases. This one does look a little bit like a Rocket Lab, just Rocket Lab wasn't as strong. You missed STX. Yeah, there's no real setup here yet. Even with the gap up. There's also no real setup in app either. VZ, it's going to be too slow. Yeah, gold miners finding support at the 50. Gold reclaiming that $4,000 level. Looks good. No, I got stopped out of TEM yesterday as soon as it took out prior day low. As soon as we broke prior day low, I was gone. So I don't sit in stocks that break prior day low like this, and more importantly break my average and prior day low. Any idea on Carvana? Probably a short against the 50 simple moving average. Who knows? They should have earnings coming up pretty soon, so probably nothing. Thoughts on QBTS, Rigetti, and Iron? Yeah, they're shorts. I'm short Rigetti and I'm short Iron. That's just my opinion. Do I think gold continues to rally, or is the rally over? I don't know. I'd have to look at positioning. I shorted Nugget a few weeks ago, or really, I think it was last week. And I'm done with the trade. I covered it on 1022, so I'm not sure here. We're going to be gapping up back above the 50, basically where I covered it before. I don't really see much to do with it at the moment. Oh, very nice. Yeah, I own Baba as well. Nice gap up. Bought it on 1024, and I'm just sitting in here now. So we'll see. Am I okay? Yeah, Tesla's technically my biggest position. I've added to it a couple times, a few the other day, and then another little piece yesterday. And I'm just, sitting there now. I'd like to add, but I don't really have another spot to add at the moment. We'll see. MSTR potential short after earnings? No, I don't think so. The time to short MSTR was on the break back through the 200 on October 7th. So, you're a little late to the shorting party. I shorted it on 918 and I didn't cover this washout and I got stopped out like a total fool. Should have covered some sub 300. I got a little greedy. But really the re-entry was on 10.7. There's not much to do with it here anymore. I'm not sure. Like, here's the reality. I'm not a fan of these. Like, I've already stated, and I'll say it again. I believe these speculative stocks have topped for at least this year, right? So when I look at IONQ, when I look at Rigetti, when I look at Oklo, when I think about Iron, when I think about the speculative stuff that has made these like insane moves, like when you look at Oklo and it quickly, more than doubles, right? I would venture to say I'm fairly confident that in the next 2 months we will not see new highs. And I'm also probably of the belief that in the next 2 months, the market sees some kind of a correction that lasts longer than 48 hours. So I don't think the money is going back into the very extended or what were very extended speculative names. Like, I don't think money's going to just like I look at MP. I don't think this is going back to an all-time high this year. I look at, the speculative battery stuff like ABAT, just throw it in the trash. I'm almost 100% positive, 99.99999% positive. You will not see all-time highs this year. You look at UAMY, just throw it in the trash. I'm 100% positive this isn't going back to 20 this year. Could it? Sure. In 6, 7, 8 months from now, 6 months from now, but not anytime soon. So why you would give them any sort of your attention? I wouldn't. Yeah, this wasn't the only one that got crushed. So VRNS hit super hard, $42. And then you also had FI. And you also had LRN crushed. ZM hasn't been on my watch list for a couple of years, but looking like trying to push out of his stage 1 base. Yeah, and it's not just Zoom. You know what else was very, very impressive yesterday? Wayfair. Shall we short bid F? I think it's a little late for now. Maybe I'm not sure how to short this one at the moment. Like I said, I thought stocks were going to, and this is why I covered my shares last week of like Rigetti and UAMY. I thought that they were going to give a little bit better of a bounce, which Rigetti did, but Iron's bounce was a little bit better. And we've kind of seen this picture before. I talked about this yesterday too during pre-market prep. If you had just looked at a name like AEVA, you'll get like these breaks, and then all of a sudden they try to rally for just a handful of days, and then they start to break down. I don't know that Iron plays out like this one, but it's basically very similar. If you get your highs to your washout spot, right, which is about 35%, then you get a bounce, which is another 30%, and then it starts to roll over. And Iron, it's like, they might as well be twins, right? You get your washout, right? And this washout was 35%. The bounce was, well, surprise, surprise, 38%. And then, you start to roll over from there. So we've seen this movie before. It's just a different stock. What's your thesis behind shorting Iron? Yeah, I hope you just heard what I said. It's exactly that. They're just far, like, this is not a setup here. I know people look at this and they missed a lot of this. And then you get like this impression in your head that these things are going to go to like 100 and 150 and it's Iron and it's, oh my God, it's the newest and greatest and, latest data center company. And no, it's not. You get very, very extended like this and you need an entire new base. And it takes a really, really long time for these things to ever go higher. And it moved up with all the other speculative stocks. So it was telling you when there was money going into speculation, this was included in that basket. Iron, Hut, Bitfarms, Hive, you name it. And then the quantums, Rigetti, IONQ, QUBT, QBTS, and some of the nuclear stocks, Oklo, right? So it's just like we've seen this movie before, except this time, I mean, again, even the rare earth stocks, MP maybe not as speculative. I mean, maybe it's getting treated like it is. UAMY, and the list goes on and on. CRML, ABAT, the battery names. So it's like at some point, money starts to come out of the places where these names actually suck, and then it goes into quality, which just so happens to be, an Amazon and an NVIDIA and Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Tesla. Makes sense? And, the thesis for shorting Iron is there is no setup to long it here. So like anybody who thinks this is a long, I mean, you could think it's a long. I'm wrong all the time too, but I just don't believe it's a long. I think that the easier money on these things are on the short side. I'm about 60% invested at the moment. Actually closer to 50% now. 50% because I took some off the table on Dell yesterday. So I went ahead and trimmed Dell, even though it's gapping up overnight. I also went ahead and trimmed some mags, and I sold my Oracle because price action here is unacceptable. Right? Market's ripping, and then this thing's finishing red back-to-back days. Where did I enter my Iron short? Against a rejection of prior day high, right here. And then right here. Thoughts on Uber? Very choppy. Better to be bought on weakness. Any thoughts on ticker CAN? No, none. Looks like shit. This looks god awful. I have no idea. I have no idea what could be said. My job isn't to think about stuff like that. My job is to figure out how to move the needle in my portfolio, and thinking about what could possibly sell the market off. I react to what is happening. Yeah, I talk about it all the time. Shorting, longs, setups, everything. Anything that will help you make money. That's the idea. Qualcomm? No, I don't. Something about Qualcomm, this price action strikes me as really ridiculous. So, I just don't know about this. I know Qualcomm said they were building chip, but like something about this candlestick just strikes me as odd. Yeah, if you bought Nvidia a few days ago, like if I bought, Nvidia on this breakout here, or this where I thought was a really nice entry, which is the 24th. I mean, I would have trimmed into this move yesterday. Yeah, Palantir's a tight base. They have earnings coming up, so I don't know if the market's just going to hold it up until earnings. I'm not sure. Will you trade BABX instead of BABA? Well, I already own BABA, so I'm not going to get out of it just to put on BABX. And I mean, that'd make a difference. How would you handle Lumen? $702 with a trimmed position. Oh, and you've already trimmed half? I would only sell more on extensions from the 50 simple moving average. So, I would trim more into the strength as it gets extended from the 50. Right? That's the first thing I would do. And then I would continue to trim every ATR over 7 from the 50 simple moving average. And then I would just trail. Oh, love that. Nice job getting yourself into SoFi. Very good. Did I feel like my BABA buy was a chase? No. BABA had made a big move up and then pulled back. How was me buying it right here a chase? It was just getting back above the 20 simple moving average. If you're going to re-enter TEM on weakness, it seems to be best, but I'm going to go ahead and leave TEM alone for now. Do I think EOSE is ready to go? EOSE is one of those speculative stocks as well. This literally falls into the exact same category as some of the other names I mentioned. I don't really think this name is ready to go. And if it is, maybe it'd probably have to take out $17. There is no maximum stop loss percentage per stock, right? Like I don't arbitrarily pick what the percent is going to be, right? I focus on the risk to my portfolio per trade and then the size that allows me to take. My thoughts on RR, this is hot garbage. The stock is also terrible. I mean, it's fine if it goes higher, but where is the setup for this thing to actually go higher, right? It's, again, another speculative stock. There's no setup here. Real trades $35 million a day, so it's not super liquid. And where's the setup? There isn't a setup. SECO, yeah, I talked about this one yesterday. Literally picture perfect for anybody who was paying attention. Nacho, nice job. Yeah, I thought a break of yesterday high was really good. For anybody paying attention yesterday, this is why you focus on clean technical setups and stocks that are in uptrends. Tech, not bad. I don't really love it, but it's not bad. This one's almost got like a nice little flat pivot through here. What do I think about APLD? Speculative stock that made an absolutely massive move and probably gets smoked like iron in the coming weeks. Guys, you guys got to know what you're buying. This is a speculative name. That also made it already a big move. You want to know your entries for this kind of stuff? Right here, and maybe right there. Okay, you had a couple of spots to buy this thing. You like it up here? I sure as hell don't. Well, solars are still shaping up pretty well. Mega caps is the current hot sector, and I talked about this already. The MAGS ETF, I tweeted about it as well. The MAGS ETF was as nice as could get, and I bought MAGS ETF on 1024, right? So, the next hot sector is the sector that just broke out, which is mega caps. Zscaler is fine. That's, these are software, cybersecurity stocks too. Yeah, Zscaler's not terrible. I mean, I don't really see a setup here to buy it, but I thought CrowdStrike was better. And CrowdStrike was better on 1023. Nothing yet on SEI. Thoughts on DQ? I actually saw this one on the move yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? Day before. Communication sector's on fire, man. XPEV's got a nice big base. NEO's been acting fairly strong for weeks now. Maybe back above the 20 simple moving average, 720s ish. Too thin, man. XPRO is far too thin. You can watch this pre-market prep gets posted in YouTube, but I do keep streaming in the Discord. Can you elaborate on the 620 setup? Yeah, it's basically when the 6-period moving average crosses back above the 20. Very simple setup. Right in here. So okay, imagine SoFi's pulling back into the 5-day, right back into the base. Okay, fine. Right? So all this thing does is undercut prior day low, undercut the 5-day moving average, and then starts to rally right back through. So there's your entry. Here's your stop. And then this is your reward so far. Right? So imagine having 2.7% of risk and now being up, 6%. Right? That's it. That's all it is. And again, you never really know what your reward is going to be, but your obvious focus is on stocks that are, have been acting and performing well. Yeah, in my opinion, APLD also falls into that same category. I could easily be wrong, but I believe that it's the same exact trade. These are all the exact same trade. It's good to remember that these are just the same pool of capital flows. It's the same pool of money going into some of this stuff, right? It's the same pool of money. Money goes in, money comes out. It's like the tides. It's like the oceans. Money goes in, money comes out. Money goes in, money comes out. But I believe that money is done going into these things. Now, can some go see a new high and some others? But for the most part, generally speaking, I think that the speculative trade is done, at least for this year. I don't know that I'll be buying anything at the moment. Like I like what CCJ did on the news. I like SoFi the way it looks. I think Wayfair looks great. But I'm not going to put on any exposure before FOMC. I'm not going to put on any exposure. I mean, this thing looks fine, fairly choppy. In a weird kind of way, this like dip and then the reclaim and then sideways looks a little like Palantir, doesn't it? Weird, right? Dip and the reclaim and then sideways. Kind of funny. EVLV. It's tight. A little liquid though, but yeah. Yeah, I'm personally just being patient until we can get through FOMC, and then we'll see what's going on. I mean, if you bought SCCO yesterday, it wasn't much of a chase. Do I see long setups in ARM and Rambus? ARM maybe in a few days. Rambus just had earnings and gap down. Nice job that it got bought up all day. I don't see anything here at the moment. What moving averages do I use for the 1 day chart? I use the 5, the 10, the 20, the 50, and the 200. Those are the primary ones that I use. And then smaller time frames, EMAs. Yeah, GEV, not really going anywhere though. And I don't really see some kind of a clean setup. So for me, GEV is just kind of a leave alone for now. SATS, a good communication stock? Yeah, but this thing's already made a massive move. Probably does nothing still for a really long time. What so LRN, VRSN. ABCL. Yeah, not an ugly looking chart at all. TTMI. Yeah, not bad either. Not bad either. I don't know if they have earnings coming up though, TTMI. TTMI has earnings on 10/29. They got earnings today. Not really a whole lot you can do there. No, I'm not going to be doing pullback buys on Galaxy at the moment. Galaxy for me is going to have to go ahead and take out 41.25. No, there's nothing to do here. Maybe, but again, getting a little aggressive on breakout buys at the moment. Not really what I want to be doing. Yeah, breakout buys at the moment don't seem like the right move. I could be wrong, but just a little bit extended in the market for me to be doing that. But, maybe it's wrong. The only name I would want to maybe continue to buy on a breakout would be Tesla. I agree with this completely. If money returns to speculative names, the first place is former liquid leaders. So Reddit, A-Lab, CoreWeave, NBIS, stuff like that. If those names aren't working, even like a Roblox, and then you can look at all the other stuff. Until then, AVAV could be another one. The more liquid, the better. If you can't get positioned in, liquid stuff, then getting positioned in illiquid stuff is going to be really difficult. Yeah, I just mentioned Galaxy. 41.25 looks like the spot that, it's going to have to get back over for, it to really be able to make a move. Well, GLXY had awesome earnings. Did I ever find the 400 level on Tesla? Yeah, I never got stopped out. And there was no move down to 400. Like, if you mean this right here, I had no problem with this at all. Right? This was on the 1010, tariff talk. This didn't bother me at all. Right? I had already trimmed pieces. I had already trimmed a piece on 925, and I had already trimmed a piece on this washout at $438. So I think I had like a trim at like 420 and then 438. And then, I'm just trailing at that point. So if you're talking about this washout, I just held it. I wasn't even on my desk on 1010. I was off my desk already. I was traveling that day. I'm almost positive I was in New Hampshire. So, this is just me not staring at it, but at that point, not even caring because I'm already trimmed. So, and all I've done is just continue to hold. It's not doing anything wrong. Uber probably best bought on some weakness, honestly. Don't really love the action. Well, I kind of messed up. I didn't mess up Oklo, but a couple of things I could have done better. I didn't trim. So my last trims were like into this 120 level. I never got trims off north of 140. And then I got caught in this gap down, this ugly gap down, and I sold it in pre-market on the gap below the 10 simple moving average. And then I actually thought it was buyable on this day, and I never rebought it. So a couple of things I could have done better, and then, it was a 7-figure trade. So that's what I could have done better, and it would have been a super, super, awesome trade. It was still a great trade, but it could have been better. There are definitely setups still hanging in there, but I am not a real buyer at this moment pre-FOMC. Right? We've got to get through FOMC, and then we'll really see what is going on. But I don't really want to add more exposure. I've got plenty of stocks. I got TSM, I've got Tesla, I've got Rocket Lab, I've got the MAGS ETF, I've got Dell, I've got BABA, and I've got ARK. Right? So I've got plenty of exposure. And then on the short side, I've got Iron and I've got Rigetti. So, yeah, there's not a ton else like I need to do out here before Jerome Powell speaks. Clean Spark looks good. I just saw that it was popping up a little bit this morning. Yeah, this doesn't really look that good to me yet. Again, I don't know that I'm entirely convinced that CleanSpark's going to go without, Iron and Hut, and I don't think so. Cypher's the same deal. Like, I don't look at Cypher and think this thing is ready to double here. Right? It just went from like $5. This is where I liked Cypher. Right? Nobody was asking me about Cypher down here for some reason. Like, I don't know if you guys saw when I tweeted this, but I tweeted that I liked Iron down here. Right? Hut was at 18. I got stopped out of Hut, but that's where I tried buying it. It's been kind of a mixed bag. It's been for every SoFi, you've got an Nvidia or a Netflix. It's been okay. For every nice Tesla reaction, you've now got a VRSN or an FI. I thought TSM was buyable yesterday. I don't think it's buyable here today. If you didn't buy this thing yesterday, I think it's a little late. And I'm definitely not putting on, like I said, exposure pre-FOMC. I mentioned SCCO yesterday. 5 car Charlie. I mean, I literally went over this stock yesterday in here. And I said this thing looked good. Picture perfect. WFRD doesn't really look ready. VAL, doesn't really look ready. FTI, doesn't really look right. I mean, some of these look great. FTI is not oil services, though. Just throwing that out there. The dollar looks ready to break higher, too. I don't understand this question. Is FOMC the only economic data day that you can trade around? I don't understand the question at all. I think the more important part with FOMC today is where we are in the market and what we've done leading up to FOMC day and the exposure that I already have in my portfolio, right? It has really nothing to do with the day itself. ASML does look okay. Yeah, it's likely this one. I mean, 1070. It just probably never lets me in. I remember I tried buying this one like I think it was like here maybe. And then I got stopped out a few days later, if I'm not mistaken. Awesome stock. ASML does look great, but not really anything I can do with it here at the moment. At least not going into FOMC meeting. Wow, $75. FI. Anybody need a lesson as to why you don't own stocks below the 200 simple moving average? How do you develop the mindset to take small losses when you know the stock might? See, the word you just used there is might. That's how I developed the mindset to take my small loss, because of that exact word you just used. Even when you know the stock might go up after hitting your stop loss. I struggle to sell once my stop loss is triggered. If you actually struggle to sell when your stop loss is triggered, then maybe this career is not for you. Right? You just use the word might. And the word might requires a lot of hope. Right? Nothing's more important than preserving my capital. Usually my first loss is my best loss. Of course, does it suck when the trade still works out in my favor when I had, good conviction in it in the, first place? Yes. But, that kind of thinking can be really, really detrimental to your career, because what if a stock doesn't come back? What if, you don't take your loss and the stock that you ended up buying was Sedge at 300, right? What if your stop loss was hit like over here, and then you just never, and then, you felt good about this little pop back up, but ultimately, it ends up doing this. And then you end up you end up as a massive bag holder. So, and you know what? When I take my losses, they're small. You know why they're small? Because I position size properly. So if I take, if I have a 3% stop or a 4% stop on a, call it 10% position, I'm losing less than 0.5% of my portfolio. Something that I can easily overcome. I think like 4%. I'll have to look. I want to say it's like 4%. But again, you don't really want to look at my P&L percent, because it's hard for me to move the needle in my portfolio, man. I'm not trading with, like small amount of money. I'm trading with a fairly large sum of money. So it's hard. And if I could do like, 3, 4, 5% every month for the rest of my life, I'll be a billionaire probably before I die. So it's just my thinking. Yeah, don't think about percent. Like if I had a smaller account, I don't know, I'd probably be up 10, 12, 15% or something like that. Give or take a couple percentage points. Who knows? I just find it hard to get fully invested. Smaller account, much easier if I had one, but oh my goodness, FI keeps getting worse. But yeah, I want to say it's like 4%, a little bit under. No, I don't really see anything in ASTS just yet. Nice push up here, but no, I don't really see a clean setup. What's the difference between your BABA entry versus an entry on iron, for example? One I was buying is a reclaim of the 20 simple moving average, right? And BABA is not speculative. They're a gigantic real company. And iron, and it's related to the Chinese sector. And iron was a short. So one's a long, one's a short. Why didn't I wait to trim gold? I'm confused on your question. I shorted gold. I shorted Nugget at $185 up here, and I covered at 136 down here. So I'm confused. Why didn't I wait to trim gold? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't know about SOUN. Maybe we'll have to get going over 1910 roughly. Don't know that I like SOUN, but maybe later. All right, guys. Much love. I used to hit big fat trades, but now I've gone full conservative mode. You only need to get rich once. No, but I mean, I still hit big fat trades, just relative to the size of my portfolio, percentage wise. I don't have like 10% days anymore, right? It's hard to have that kind of day in the market. It's possible, but not something that I necessarily do. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow. I'm not on the desk on Friday. I am traveling to Jersey, and I will see you guys for one more day. Hopefully, you guys trade them safe today. Don't be too aggressive before FOMC, and I will see you guys bright and early in the morning. Appreciate you, Trevor. We'll see you tomorrow, brother. Thanks, guys. Much love.